Today we will be talking about what makes up a core HL7 database schema. Simply put, it is a set of database objects, tables, indexes etc. which are part of a Microsoft SQL Server database. All objects are created with a very specific initial structure and naming convention. The naming convention revolves around what we call the schema prefix. This is a 2 to 4 character, alphanumeric value, beginning with an alpha character, which we use to name all objects that we create. The initial structure is derived from a core HL7 definition object, which contains structural and syntax information about a particular version of HL7. Whether it be ANSI HL7 or a custom definition relating to a specific vendor or product. We refer to this as the initial structure because, once created, the schema becomes dynamic and it will actually grow and expand as it is exposed to HL7 data.
Now, if you made it through that long-winded introduction, we're going to start working with a database right now. The point of the video is an HL7 database schema. And if you paid attention, what do you need? You need a prefix, 2 to 4 characters, and you need a database connection. If you're creating your schema, you also need an HL7 definition. So let's go to work. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work here. I'm going to remove the schema that already exists. If I go over to SQL Server now, and I am just working on SQL Server Express, there's my tables are all gone. I'm working in this database, core HL7. Now, let's play. I can create a new schema. I'm going to use the default 2.5.1 definition. That is the ANSI 2.5 definition. So let's go into here and I'm going to create my schema tables. Makes me confirm and done. If I come back to SQL Server, refresh my database, and there are all of my SQL tables. There are a lot of them. But how many tables do you really need? We create a table for every HL7 segment, and most people can go their entire careers and never use every segment that's created by HL7. So let's work on that. If we don't want to create so many tables, and we only care about the tables that we absolutely need, let's try another approach. Going back to my schema here, I'm going to remove the one that I just created. And it's gone. Now I'm going to edit my schema, and this time I'm going to say that I want to start with a smaller one. We provide this one. Let's take a look at what that is. It's truncated. It only has 5 segment definitions in it. Just the bare minimum, what's absolutely required, and the number of fields has been cropped way back. So we're going to do that, and we're going to set the field size to be just the absolute minimum, just to demonstrate. So we're going to save this, and it says there's no schema yet. So let's go back in here, and now we're going to create the schema tables again. It says that it's done. Let's go look over in SQL Server and see the result. And there it is. I only have 5 segment tables. Now, what good does that do me? I care about more than this. I need more than this, but what specifically do I need? The next section, we're going to talk about training. Now, if we remember from the introduction, the whole point of the HL7 database is that it has to be dynamic. After it's been created, it has to grow once it's been exposed to HL7 data. Now, I have to talk about this product. It's our new one. It's fantastic. The core HL7 MS SQL Schema engine. I'll put a link in the description. You can go download it and play with it for free. So let's work on training. If I take a look at my database, Here it is right now, just after we created the tables. This is the PID segment table. There's PID F5C1. That's the patient's last name. PID segment, field 5, component 1. And we've got it set as a varchar 10. Now, let's train our schema. Now, we could train it by importing messages. Training is dynamic. You could just bring messages in and it will train them on the fly. Or you can actually do a training operation. This is, I want to take this and I want to train it. And I'm going to choose a folder. Now, I've got a folder created out here. It's a training folder. It has got probably 20,000 different messages in it of all different kinds. And let's say these are all the messages that I might care about receiving. So I'm going to go choose that folder. HL7 messages, training folder. Okay, and I'm going to start my training operation. And we don't even have to let it run to completion. We're just going to let it go. We'll let it run for 10 or 15 seconds. You can see, if you're following along, it's analyzing the files, it's training, it's telling me how many training operations it's doing. But it's all going faster than you could even, imagine. So let's take it to here. We're going to stop the training operation. Let's go over to SQL Server and see what happened. Remember, I started out with only 5 tables. Let's refresh. Oh my. I have all of these new tables. And if we take a look at something like the PID segment table that we were just looking at, we can go over to the patient's last name. It's now a varchar 16. This field has been put up to a varchar 25. And what that means is it saw data that wouldn't fit into that field, so it dynamically increased the size. It also came across segments that were not part of the schema tables. So it created them, like your PV1 table, your RXA, the ZDS. That's a custom segment. It's not part of any HL7 definition, but we saw it and we created a table to hold the data. And that is how training works. It is dynamic. The next step, let's import some messages and see what they look like. So let's import some HL7 messages. We're still working in our core HL7 MS SQL schema engine. Let me get some more screen real estate here. And we're going to go to Actions, and we're going to say we want to run it locally. We're running it locally just so we can watch it work. Now this thing is really amazing. For every schema profile that you create, you can have up to 4 folders that it will monitor for HL7 data files. You can also set up a TCP/IP port for it to listen for data on over an HL7 TCP/IP listener. It's running right now. I'm actually going to send the messages with sender. It's listening on port 3000. I have got 144 messages loaded up, and we're going to go here and say start sending. And it's done. Stop running my profile. I can come over here to SQL Server. Again, I'll refresh because I don't know if it did any training in there. And let's go to our tables. There they are. This is always your main table, the first table you'll see in a schema, which is this. And there they are. There's my 144 rows. Here are the HL7 messages. Now, if I want to look at these, I can use a product like our UltraPort HL7 Notepad. Say I want to import messages from an UltraPort SQL schema. I've created a profile already. Say I want to look at, I don't care about the date message loaded. Let's execute that. And here's my 144 messages. I can look at a report. This is a great product too. Or I can say I want to put them in my data store. And here they are. And just like that, HL7 messages are imported. For our next step, we're going to take a look at performance, and this is strictly about this core SQL schema engine. I think you'll really like it. Now we're going to show some fast importing. We're going to run it as a service, and it's going to import HL7 data. Now to run this test, we're going to use our product, the UltraPort HL7 Postmaster. What this little thing does a lot. It's a great product too. It picks up messages in a certain location, and I've created this Postmaster to deliver it to multiple destinations, their file folders. CSE5 is the one that we care about, and as it's putting the messages in, it's actually going to change them and put a new message control ID on each one so that they all come into the database as unique messages. So it's running as a service, so all I have to do is put HL7 messages in this folder. So remember my training folder that I had set up? It's got thousands of messages in it. I'm just going to copy this, copy all the HL7 files, and go up and paste them right here in the central distribution folder. And we should start to see those just start to disappear just almost immediately. And they're gone. And what we care about for ours is this folder. That's where our Z profile is actually working. So let's get back up here, and we're going to turn this on. And by starting the services, it runs in service instance number 1. Services are now running. I can even go now, since it's running, I could go send some messages in over TCP/IP. They're going into the database as well, and it is importing those messages. If I go to SQL Server, remember we started with 144 messages. Let's just execute while we've been talking. 3,000 messages. 4,000 imported already. 5,000. This thing is blazingly fast. And are we done? Let's see how many we've got. Oh, there's still 400 or so left to go of files. It's done. It has finished importing those messages. So during that instance, we imported 7,000 HL7 messages into the database. We have clocked this under optimum conditions. It can import over 1 million messages an hour into an HL7 database schema. It is blazingly fast. That concludes our introduction here. I'm going to close this out, and we'll put a link so you can download all of the software that you've seen us using during this video, and think about doing a like and subscribe.